Hey guys, what's up? It's Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews, and I'm here with a Blu-ray DVD vinyl collection update video. This one being a very special one because this is specifically for the stuff I bought during the halfway to Black Friday Vinegar Syndrome sale. I paid extra to have it shipped inside an old film can, which is very, very cool. I'm not going to show you this side because it has my address label on it, but as you can see, this was used for some porno film called San Fernando Valley Girls. Inside is literally just a bunch of bubble mailers that they used as packaging material. But let me lift it up for you. See, there's the goodies inside. So let's just do this thing. Let me grab these things and I will put them on the shelf beside me, and then I will get into it. Alright, so starting off, I was really looking forward to this sale, mainly because there were going to be some surprise releases. The two of these surprise releases that I kind of was expecting from them were Satan's Slave and Night Beast, because I had heard a rumor about Night Beast, and I had also heard a rumor quite a while back in October that Satan's Slave was being restored for them. So, yeah, I got Night Beast, the Don Dohler film Night Beast, with the, cool limited edition slipcover. It's very nice. I got that reversible cover art, Blu-ray DVD combo. Yeah, I like Night Beast. This is actually a movie I saw a few years back, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's a very, very bad but entertaining and gory little alien horror film. Essentially, Don Dohler was this a filmmaker based out of, I think, Baltimore, I believe, and he made low-budget science fiction horror films. He started out with The Alien Factor, which was a pretty interesting, effects-driven kind of alien movie, and then he went on and did The Fiend, which was released on Blu-ray, I think late last year, by Massacre Video, which Fiend is probably Dohler's masterpiece, honestly. It's a really creepy movie, despite it being very, very cheap. It's like a combination of vampire movies, alien movies, and zombie movies. But this was his attempt to break away from the kind of, I don't want to say necessarily kid-friendly, but definitely more PG-13 type films he was making, because, like, Alien Factor and Fiend, those movies are fairly tame when it comes to their violence and content. Fiend is definitely pretty damn creepy, and it's definitely, I definitely think it would probably get an R rating still, but it still isn't as violent as Night Beast is. This movie is actually pretty damn gory. There's some tits in there. It's been a minute since I watched it, but interesting little factoid. Film director and producer J.J. Abrams actually did the music for this movie, which is interesting because now he's like this Hollywood big shot, and he's responsible for, reinvigorating the Star Wars series, which is definitely interesting. Not that the music in this movie is very memorable, but it was his first film credit, which is definitely something that's kind of cool about Night Beast as a movie. This was also a movie originally owned by Troma. The other one I got, which is the other title, I guess, is Satan's Slave from Norman J. Warren. I like that they have both the different poster art on each side of the slipcover. I'm sticking with this artwork because this artwork I think is the most eye-catching and interesting. Satan's Slave. I covered this one on my channel a while back. Nearly 2 years ago, actually. And when I talked about it, I said, like, yeah, there are some boring moments. It's not really anything too amazing. It's got a decent atmosphere. There isn't much in the ways of violence in the movie. Um, Keep in mind, the version I had seen and reviewed was the cut version of the film, which is cut by, like, I think 4 minutes. This is the uncut version of the movie, restored in HD. It looks great, first of all. I watched it just the other night. So first of all, it looks very good, and they did a great job restoring this movie. And second, the uncut version of this movie is actually pretty damn good. I mean, like, all of the kind of not so good acting and writing aside, this movie is actually a pretty damn good atmospheric, violent, uncomfortable little kind of Rosemary's Baby kind of cult exploitation film. I already really liked the movie, honestly, and I was hoping it would get a Blu-ray release sometime. And then I heard a little rumor that Vinegar Syndrome was working on it, which I kind of thought they would get around to it eventually because they had already done pretty much every other title in in Norman J. Warren's filmography, other than his 80s sex comedy film Spaced Out, and his alien ripoff film Inseminoid, which I'm sure they're probably working on getting those titles as well. But still, Satan's Slave, what can I say? This is honestly a fucking classic, low budget, like, British horror, honestly. This is, I'll go ahead and say this right now. This is probably one of my favorite British horror films of the 1970s. Like, in my opinion, this is up there with, like, The Blood on Satan's Claw, which is a damn near masterpiece. I also got The Suckling, which I didn't expect to get the slipcover version, because they said it was sold out. So I ordered the regular version, because I like The Suckling. It's a pretty entertaining movie for what it is. It's not necessarily a good movie, but it's got some cool monster effects, and I watched this, like, almost 2 or 3 years ago, so I can't remember too much about it, but I remember the monster effects being good. But surprisingly, I got the slipcover version. So either somebody, like, got their order canceled because Vinegar Syndrome does that if you order too many copies of a movie at once, or I just happened to, or the site was messed up or something. But yeah, this Suckling. This is an entertaining little 90s creature feature having to do with an aborted fetus getting thrown into a sewer and coming into contact with toxic waste, and it becomes a horrible monster. Next is another one I haven't watched in a few years. This one is Wacko. I was surprised that they put this one on Blu-ray, because I'm pretty sure this film isn't even on DVD. Let me make sure. Yeah, never officially released on DVD, restored in 4K. Yeah, Wacko. This is a film directed by Graydon Clark, who is probably most well known for directing Satan's Cheerleaders. I haven't seen that one yet, but I've been planning on it for a very long time. Graydon Clark, he's also responsible for the blaxploitation film Tom, which is a really interesting blaxploitation film strictly because it is this. God damn it! Where am I? What am I fucking trying to say? It's an interesting blaxploitation film because the main character in the film is a white guy. How do you write a blaxploitation film with a white main character? I don't know, but he somehow did it. It's not necessarily a good movie, like, at all, but that's one of the only other film other than this one that I've seen from him. But I do like Wacko. From what I remember, it was very entertaining, and I remember there being specifically a scene that parodies the chest burster scene from Alien. That was pretty great. Speaking of blaxploitation, we got a blaxploitation vampire movie, Death by Temptation. This is another title that is owned by Troma. This one is a movie I watched, I think last year. When I heard Vinegar Syndrome was putting this out on Blu-ray, I was pretty excited because I wanted to buy it because it was a pretty good movie. As soon as it got announced, I was like, ah, it's gonna sell out. Surprisingly, it didn't sell out, at least the slipcover version. I guess this film doesn't have the cult following that I thought it did, which is kind of a shame. But yeah, entertaining vampire movie. The big thing to know about this movie is that it features Samuel L. Jackson in the cast. He's got a rather minor role, like he's literally in just one scene that lasts like 30 seconds, I think, but still, it was his first, one of his earliest roles in a movie, which is very cool. Evils of the Night. This is like the only title I got that didn't have a slipcover. This is an older Vinegar Syndrome release. Not saying that this is like their first release ever, because there are older releases on their catalog, like Madman, for example, but Evils of the Night, this is an interesting movie because in all intents and purposes, this should be a really fucking awful, boring travesty of a film. It is this almost violence. I want to say almost completely free of violence, horror exploitation, kind of science fiction, almost kind of sexploitation film, having to do with vampires from outer space who need human blood to survive. So they harvest the blood of teenagers after they set up a fake hospital, and they pretty much take people from car accidents and harvest their blood. I don't remember too much about this movie. I remember it being very entertaining, though. So yeah, I remember this like. It says on the back moments of splattery gore, but I swear to God, this I swear to God, this movie is like free of violence. But maybe there is gore in it, and I'm just fucking forgetting because I'm dumb. Who is in this movie? I know John Carradine is in this movie, which is really interesting to see. Also, I'm reading on the back here that Amber Lynn, famous porn star Amber Lynn, is in the movie. She was in the shot on 8mm film, one of my favorite movies of all time, Things, which is a very entertaining movie. But yeah, Evils of the Night. Interesting kind of, 80s trash film. This other thing I got, which I bought the first set at Cinema Wasteland last year, and right after I went to Cinema Wasteland that year, I hit 1,000 subscribers, and in honor of hitting the 1,000 subscribers, I watched every movie on the set, all 12 of them, and I reviewed them all. I figured I'd do the same once I hit maybe 1,500, honestly. Either 1,500 or 2,000. I'm still kind of, on the fence about it. But once I hit one of those numbers, I'm planning on reviewing all the movies in this set, even though this doesn't pertain to my channel as much as the first one did, because the first one was a collection of horror and occult-themed pornography. This is just mostly just low-budget 70s porn. There's one in here that is like horror themed, but it is All Night at the Pono. This was their first set in their what is it called? I think it's like called their storefront theater. This is the first set in their storefront theater collection, which is cool. Their second one was the Bizarre Art Theater collection, which was definitely more interesting. But like the first... What the fuck? God damn it. There we go. God damn. Sorry about that. My memory card ran out of space. Like I was saying, All Night at the Pono, second part of their storefront theater collection, which, interestingly enough, these kind of storefront theaters that these things are a reference to were apparently like really low budget makeshift porno theaters, usually set up in like empty strip mall stores that are usually just a bunch of folding chairs and a sheet hung on a wall with a projector, and they showed really low budget porn. The first set I from what I read, is supposed to be stuff that was mostly in um, the, I think, West Coast, and this is supposed to be the East Coast. Um, but yeah, this is the first set. Um, Nothing too amazing on here. Nothing like Doctor Sexual and Mr. Hyde, or the House of Desad, or the eternal classic The Geek. But this one does have some interesting titles, like The Snatch, which is apparently a low budget rape and revenge film. Um, let's see, The Erotic Adventure of Hercules, um, which sounds interesting. Porno Mondo, which is apparently a documentary about pornography, or at least a documentary in the trying to be educational sense. Um, and probably the most interesting um, movie on the set, and one of the only ones I'm really interested in seeing out of all of these, is Succula, which has to do with Dracula facing off against a news team that is like covering his I guess rape and murder spree. But still, um, what can I say? Just like the first set, it's well put together and made of recycled cardboard, which I can really dig that. It's a nice looking set, and I'm pretty sure these are limited. These two sets are actually limited. I don't know if they're ever going to do any more of these sets. Kind of hope they do, because these sets are interesting. The Bizarre Art Theater set, while bad, was interesting, and I hope that this will be interesting too. Like I said, I'm going to cover this once I reach either 2,000 or 1,500 subs. So, if you want to see me suffer through 12 hours of 70s pornography again, subscribe. And the very last thing I grabbed, which I mainly grabbed this because it was pretty cheap, and from what I've read, it's limited, and I don't know, it's just kind of a cool thing to have. It is the Last House on Dead End Street soundtrack on vinyl. Now, I've seen Last House on Dead End Street. It's not necessarily like my favorite movie of the 1970s or anything, but it's a really, really fucking interesting piece of 70s exploitation cinema. And from what I remember from when I last watched it, was when I was in high school. I liked it. I don't remember the soundtrack to the film at all. But I figured, the soundtrack to a movie like this would be cool to own, especially on a format like vinyl, which is a very, very good format. I really like the presentation with the shots of the film. To top it off, the vinyl itself is black, and it is one of the heavy, like, I'm pretty sure this is the 180G, fucking 180 gram or whatever vinyls, because this is heavy and thick. Like, you could tell that this was they definitely pressed this with quality in mind. There's also the, because there's no track listing on the back. There's also the track listing right here. I might put this one on rotation tonight, maybe. It even has what the actual soundtrack, what the actual tracks on the album sound like, kind of descriptions of them. Continuous throbbing heartbeat over suspenseful background music, dramatic underscore using a wide variety of electronic sound, spacious, vast, and eerie distant voices, nebulous, slow-moving, soft clouds, stillness, etc. Like, this makes the soundtrack actually sound pretty damn good. And like I said, I don't remember the soundtrack. I usually only buy soundtracks to movies when they leave an impression on me. For instance, the soundtrack to Old Boy, which I own on vinyl, or the soundtrack to The Witch, which again, on vinyl. I usually don't buy soundtracks to movies too often, but this one has been kind of on my radar for a bit ever since I saw it on the Vinegar Syndrome website, so I was excited to pick it up, just for, curiosity's sake. Anyway, that is actually it for this update. I promise I'll be back hopefully soon with some more content. But that is it for for now. This is Biscuit Horror Reviews signing off. Peace.